You know, there's no dearth of iconic villains in the Star Wars franchise, but Darth Maul still happens to be one of our favorites. What really draws us to this character is how paradoxical his entire existence is. This Zabrak from Dathomir happens to be a very powerful Sith Lord trained in the ways of the dark side of the Force as the first apprentice of Darth Sidious, but he's a weapon who was once discarded and refused to back down. This is someone who lives for revenge and has managed to outlast all those who wronged him. You have to agree that there's something very charismatic and unique about this character because Maul appeared for just about 7 minutes in his first movie appearance, where he got cut in half by a Padawan, fell down a reactor shaft, and seemingly died. Now, most characters don't come back from that sort of treatment, but here we are, and Darth Maul has become one of the most compelling villains in the following 2 decades. Finally, he's getting his own show, and before Star Wars Maul Shadow Lord hits Disney Plus on April 6th, we thought it would be a good time to go back to the very beginning.
At last we will reveal ourselves to the Jedi. At last we will have revenge.
In this video, we're going to explore Darth Maul's entire life across multiple story arcs and multiple platforms. You see, ever since Disney acquired Lucasfilm in 2012 and declared all pre-Disney EU material as non-canonical, Maul's story was split. While most animated material like The Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels are canon, most novels and older comics fall into the Star Wars Legends category and are therefore non-canonical. Here, we're going to talk about all of it. We're going to explore what truly makes this character so remarkable. Birth on Dathomir and training under Sidious. 54 BBY to 32 BBY. Maul, as a character, was conceptualized as someone who could rival Darth Vader. George Lucas envisioned him as a thing of nightmares, and early concept art showed him as a masked figure, but over time, the appearance evolved significantly. Maul was born in 54 BBY during the era of the Galactic Republic, when he was the son of Mother Talzin, the leader of the Night Sisters of Dathomir. The Night Sisters were a clan and ancient order of magic-wielding women living on Dathomir, which was a planet bathed in dark energy. Maul had 2 siblings, Night brothers Savage Opress and Feral. Darth Sidious took him in after sensing his potential, and he became an apprentice while he was still a child in 40 BBY. He was well-trained and raised to hate the Jedi Knights who served the light side of the Force. He was determined to fight for the day when the Sith would get their revenge on their ancient enemies. Before that opportunity came, there was another Jedi interaction that shaped his character. We choose to begin with a story arc that's probably the closest thing to a canonical origin story that Maul has received in comic form. This 2017 Marvel comic series, Darth Maul by Cullen Bunn and Luke Ross, is probably the best canonical source that explores his training period. The introduction to this comic series is pretty ominous, and it reads, "In the shadows, an ancient enemy stirs. The Sith, practitioners of the dark side of the Force, long thought destroyed, secretly work to undermine and eventually overthrow the Jedi Order, the guardians of peace and justice in the galaxy. 2 members of the Sith Order, Darth Sidious and his apprentice, Darth Maul, secretly await their moment to strike. But while Sidious plans an intricate series of deceptions and machinations, Maul grows restless. The moment of revenge is close at hand, and he's unwilling to wait much longer." The story starts you off on Tuan Kati, where Maul has the perfect introduction as he proves his skills and powers while killing one of the most dangerous creatures in the galaxy, the Rathtars. He has a sick-looking blade in his hands, and he's skilled enough with the weapons of the Sith to take down the mighty creature. He says that he goes on these hunts for the thrills, but even this feels hollow after a point, and he needs something bigger. But his master isn't pleased with his ambitions of going up against the Jedi. Darth Sidious warns him against it, saying that he allows Maul to conduct the hunting expeditions to test his mettle, but contact with the Jedi is to be strictly avoided for now. He's not happy with Maul's restlessness because his plans are bigger and for the long haul, but he does have a task for Maul. Their allies in the Trade Federation have requested assistance, and while establishing secret mining facilities in the Kellux system, they've run afoul of a particularly cunning faction of pirates. They cannot reach out to the Republic for help because that would reveal their unsanctioned activities, and Maul is asked to depart for Kellux at once. The next bit captures Maul's frustration as he talks about his years of training and all the punishment that he's faced. He says that he was taught to hate, but now there's nothing to vent, and this makes him increasingly irritated. His task in slaughtering pirates is almost effortless, but once again, it's not enough to satiate his hunger for a gritty challenge. One of the cornered pirates spills some information that catches Maul's attention. The pirate says that a Jedi Padawan has been captured by a cartel leader and will be auctioned off. This is really exciting news for Maul, because the Padawan is a student of everything that he's come to loathe, and it's the perfect opportunity for revenge. He even kills the ones who summoned his help so that news doesn't reach his master, who obviously wouldn't approve of this revenge opportunity. As Maul continues the search for the cartel leader who's captured the Padawan, he ends up finding allies in a group of devious bounty hunters. Aura Singh, Cad Bane, and a creature who loves to torture and kill, Voradalo. They know where the cartel leader is, and together with Maul, they head out. They infiltrate the auction, unknown to the cartel leader, and Maul plans to purchase or kidnap the Padawan and then kill her. It all goes according to plan, and finally, Maul is face to face with the Padawan, who rage baits him successfully to cut her free and go for a fair fight. But the cartel leader and the entire gang are also after them, which makes things incredibly complicated. In fact, there's even a moment where the Jedi Padawan and Maul fight together against the cartel, and in this moment, Maul admires her fearless nature. He knows that when he finally kills her in fair combat, he'll enjoy the satisfaction of killing a Jedi because she's well-trained and courageous. When they finally have the duel that Maul craved so badly, it is his supreme confidence that takes him ahead in the game. The Padawan fights well, but not well enough to take down Maul, who is simply too ferocious and skilled. Eventually, after an intense bout, the Padawan named Eldra Kaitis is killed, but Maul acknowledges her skills as no less than a Jedi. The final act reveals that Darth Sidious is the one who pushed him into the situation because he wanted to test Maul's defiance and determination as a Sith. He's happy with Maul's victory, but Maul himself still feels empty, even though he expected the killing to be fulfilling. It's a defining moment in his character, and it starts the journey of a hardened warrior who's so keen on revenge that he ignores all threats along the way. The Legends novels. Pre-Phantom Menace missions. Legends only. I know you're probably excited to hear about Darth Maul's lore from the main canon, but before the main canon expanded Maul's backstory, a series of Legends novels explored his early missions. These are no longer canon, but remain loved by longtime fans, and we thought we'd take you through these stories before diving into the canonical lore. The first of these novels was Darth Maul Saboteur from 2001, which depicts his first solo mission as Darth Maul. Sidious sends him to destroy two rival mining companies so that the Trade Federation can absorb them, and this is a part of the groundwork for the Phantom Menace invasion of Naboo. Maul is established as precise, methodical, and absolutely merciless, and we love his depiction here. The setting is a distant mining planet, Dorvala, which has precious ore that's mined by two competing companies, Intergalactic Ore and Lawmite Limited. Darth Sidious has a sinister plan, and he makes Maul infiltrate Lawmite. He soon triggers an explosive chain of events that destroys both companies, and it's the perfect opportunity for the Trade Federation to take over. The story shows that Maul is capable of staying under the radar, and he's smart enough to manipulate everyone around him. He successfully convinces both companies that the other is plotting against them, and then both companies hire salvagers turned pirates to fight their rival. Maul patiently waits in the wings until it's time, and finally, he lands the killing blow and frames the head of Lawmite's security team for the whole act of violence. Eventually, Sidious gets what he wants, and it's a successful mission for a relatively inexperienced Maul. Maul Lockdown from 2013 is another fine novel, and many fans consider this one of the darkest and most brutally written of all the Darth Maul novels. In this story, Darth Maul is sent by Sidious to the prison colony of Cog Hive 7 to find a mysterious weapon merchant named Iram Radik. Maul goes under the guise of a mercenary known as Jagannath, and he lands in a prison that also holds gladiatorial contests between prisoners. He participates in many of these matches, and eventually, he learns that his real mission is to contact Radik and buy a nuclear device secretly built inside Cog Hive 7. The mission soon comes under fire, and when Cog Hive 7 is destroyed, Maul tries to escape with the nuclear device that he bought from Radik earlier. Even though Radik betrays him, he's eventually able to escape the prison unharmed before it's completely destroyed. In this narrative, Maul comes up against some superior opponents that are a lot harder to defeat, and the intervention of Jabba the Hutt is also noteworthy. We loved how it went from a mystery novel to a full-blown action and disaster story, and the tone of the narrative ensures that you'll be hooked to the very end. Lastly, a novel that deserves to be mentioned here is Darth Maul Shadow Hunter, which is set in the Coruscant underworld before the Phantom Menace. This time around, Maul has another crucial task at hand, which is to track down a low-level information broker who's learned about the existence of the Sith and the whole plot of the Trade Federation. The clock is ticking because if Maul fails, it might ruin their plans altogether. What we found most interesting about this narrative is how Maul manages to work in the shadows right under the nose of the Republic as he moves through the city's underbelly. It all starts after Darth Sidious is finally taking the first major step in his master plan to bring down the Republic. He secretly meets with his contacts in the Trade Federation when he notices that one of the members of the delegation is missing. He immediately suspects betrayal and sends his trusted apprentice, Maul, to hunt him down. As the broker looks to sell the information to the highest bidder, he's stalked by the vicious Maul. The story also introduces a Jedi Padawan, Darsha Asant, who prepares for her final mission before becoming a Jedi Knight. When their paths cross, it requires a sacrifice from Master Bondara, a Jedi Master, to buy her the time to escape. Maul not only accomplishes his missions, but also proves that he's a fighter to be reckoned with because nobody he encounters, not even the Jedi Master, has even a chance to defeat him. The best thing about this novel, in our opinion, is the noir nature, and Maul works so methodically here that you are bound to respect him by the end of it. This novel was later re-released because of its popularity, and even though the story is no longer canon, we think it's no less significant.
This is my apprentice, Darth Maul.
Star Wars Episode 1: The Phantom Menace. 7 minutes that changed everything. Many of you might argue that this first movie appearance for Darth Maul is his most minimalist, with only about 7 minutes of screen time, but we beg to differ. It would be wrong to judge this character on the role because the impact was so massive, and this has to be Darth Maul's most iconic appearance, even though he only features in 3 sequences. It didn't take long for Maul to become one of the most iconic Star Wars villains ever created. The story of the film follows the journey of Jedi Master Qui-Gon Jinn and his apprentice, Obi-Wan Kenobi, as they try to protect Padme Amidala of Naboo in her quest to solve an interplanetary trade dispute. Sidious, a Sith Lord, is the secret benefactor of the Trade Federation, and he orders the Viceroy, Newt Gunray, to kill the Jedi. Later, he dispatches Maul to locate Amidala and eliminate the 2 Jedi, and it's their first contact that exposes a Sith for the first time in 1,000 years. Of course, the Jedi Council is alarmed. During their first confrontation, Qui-Gon barely escapes, but the most memorable moment in the film for Maul comes during the 3-way battle where he engages both Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan in a lightsaber duel. Qui-Gon is mortally wounded, and the entire fight scene is one of the most technically impressive lightsaber fights in Star Wars history. The use of the double-bladed lightsaber looks absolutely badass, and even the weapon itself is iconic. While Qui-Gon's death is the emotional turning point in the story, Obi-Wan attacks Maul with fury and grief. Eventually, he cuts Maul in half at the waist, and his 2 halves fall down a reactor shaft. This is a significant moment because the Republic starts to suspect that there might be a second Sith Lord at large because a Sith must always have a master. As for Maul, he survives through sheer force-fueled hatred and the power of the dark side, which he focuses entirely on his hate for Obi-Wan Kenobi to keep himself alive. His upper body lands on the junk planet Lotho Minor, and his story continues in the Clone Wars, which brings us to our next point. The Clone Wars, the Shadow Collective, and Mandalore. The aftermath of this iconic showdown in the movie is captured in the Clone Wars Season 4, where the narrative around Darth Maul continues to evolve. We would say that this version offers the most complex and compelling story arc for Maul and his personality as he goes from an abandoned fugitive to the leader of a criminal empire. In the episode titled Brothers, Maul's brother, Savage Opress, is on the quest for his long-lost sibling. As he keeps growing stronger and more uncontrollable, Opress finally finds clues about Maul's whereabouts while he's on the run from the authorities after an altercation at a local diner. He traces these clues back to a freighter that recently toured Lotho Minor, and he makes the captain take him back to the junk planet. Eventually, Opress pinpoints Maul's location in the local junkyard, and he gets attacked by a vicious spider-like creature that turns out to be a deranged and transformed version of Maul. It turns out that following the violent duel with Obi-Wan Kenobi, Maul transformed into a centroid half-spider cyborg. When a press finally has the opportunity to speak with Maul, his pitiful state is revealed further, but it also becomes clear that he still has the same hate for the Jedi, and now he has a greater hunger for revenge. Meanwhile, the entire operation is noticed by the strongest Force wielders in the galaxy, and Yoda reveals to Obi-Wan Kenobi that an old enemy has come back from the dead. The next episode, titled Revenge, continues the saga further, and Maul and Savage Opress travel back to Dathomir, where their mother, Talzin, leads them to her village. She's the one who removes the spider-like cybernetics from Maul, and she uses her magic to create new cybernetic legs. The whole process also restores his sanity because Maul had kind of lost his mind in that whole ordeal, which lasted over a decade. He then remembers how he survived after being discarded and forgotten, and it was only his extreme hatred and urge for revenge that kept him alive. He learns about the events of the Clone Wars and feels like he's been robbed of his destiny, but the primary focus of the two brothers is to get back at the Jedi who caused his condition in the first place, Obi-Wan Kenobi. They travel to a village on the planet Raydonia and slaughter the inhabitants to send a message to Obi-Wan as a challenge. It works because Obi-Wan decides to go alone, even as Yoda cryptically remarks that he wouldn't really be alone in this quest. The brothers manage to capture Obi-Wan, but Asajj Ventress intervenes and rescues him. They team up to fight the brothers, but even together they're quickly outmatched and barely manage to escape alive. Maul is satisfied about how he made Obi-Wan run for his life, and he's confident that the Jedi will return again and the fight will continue. The Clone Wars narrative probably has the best take on the rivalry between Maul and Obi-Wan, as they fight each other several times during this series. We found it fascinating how Maul and Savage Opress continue a reign of terror that rattles even the Jedi Council. They attack civilians on multiple worlds to draw out Obi-Wan, and the Council sends him even though he's not very keen, because they know it's the only way to confront the mighty Maul. The most disturbing moment in their rivalry comes when Maul kills Duchess Satine Kryze, the ruler of Mandalore and the woman that Obi-Wan loved since his days as a Padawan. He kills her in front of Obi-Wan because he wanted him to feel the sense of devastating loss that he felt earlier when he was cut in half. This is one of the darkest moments in the entire show, and it shapes the character of Obi-Wan in many ways. Maul continues to grow in strength as he establishes the Shadow Collective, an alliance of criminal organizations like Death Watch, Black Sun, and the Pike Syndicate. In order to accomplish this, he even defeats the Death Watch leader, Pre Vizsla, in single combat and takes control of Mandalore. Now, he's the ruler of a planet with a powerful military force behind him, and all the while, Darth Sidious notices his rise in silence. He goes to Mandalore personally and declares Maul and Savage as his rivals. This brings about a vicious duel where Savage is killed, and he keeps Maul alive purposefully because he has other, bigger plans. Maul is filled with anger and grief, and he pulls out the Darksaber and his lightsaber to start another fight with Sidious, but the latter is simply too good for him. Maul is humiliated and made to beg for mercy as Sidious tortures him with Force lightning, and it's only his future plans that keep Maul alive for now. Son of Dathomir comic, The Last Mother. This story marks an important missing chapter between Clone Wars Season 5 and 7. It's based on the unproduced scripts from the cancelled Season 6, and the story is presented as a 4-issue comic series from Dark Horse written by Jeremy Barlow. The best part is that this narrative is confirmed as official Star Wars canon. The story is set during the Clone Wars, and it's the perfect continuation of Darth Maul's story from the show. It picks up after the events of the episode The Lawless, which we just discussed in this video, and after capturing Maul, Darth Sidious has him tortured by Count Dooku in a separatist prison called the Spire on Stygian Prime. However, Sidious has a sinister motive behind all of this, which is to draw out Maul's mother, Talzin. He fears the powers of Talzin and sees her as an obstruction to his goal of Sith domination of the galaxy. After Maul is freed by his loyalists, he returns to Zanbar and commands the remaining Shadow Collective forces, who are now reduced because the Black Sun and the Pikes have abandoned the Alliance following Darth Sidious's attack. As the fight-back journey begins, Maul captures Dooku and General Grievous in a daring ambush, and he tries to convince Dooku to join him against his former master. Mother Talzin appears and confirms that Sidious plans to replace Dooku with a new apprentice to make Maul's offer even more appealing. However, the narrative ends in tragedy for Maul because in a final battle between Sidious and Talzin, General Grievous impales her from behind, and she dies. Maul watches helplessly, and he cannot prevent the inevitable, even though he manages to escape. Meanwhile, Sidious gets just what he wanted with Talzin dead, and now the Shadow Collective is broken as well, and Savage is dead, as is his mother. But if we've learned anything about Maul, it's just not in his nature to give up, and predictably enough, his story continues even after this major setback. The Clone Wars, Season 7, The Siege of Mandalore, 19 BBY, canon. After the show was cancelled back in 2013, it took 7 long years for them to come back with The Clone Wars Season 7, the final season. The narrative contains the Siege of Mandalore arc, which is set simultaneously with the events of Revenge of the Sith, and this is Maul's final Clone Wars appearance. Many fans regard this as one of his best story arcs, and I don't think they're exaggerating because the episodes make sure you're on the edge of your seat the entire time. Here, Maul still controls Mandalore with a reduced Shadow Collective, but an interesting power struggle develops after the sister of the deceased Satine, Bo-Katan Kryze, rejects Maul's rule and enlists Ahsoka Tano and a branch of the 501st Clone Legion to retake the planet. The story also reveals the true motivation of Maul, as he caused the siege only to draw out Anakin Skywalker to Mandalore. He has visions through the Force, and he knows that Skywalker could be the key to Sidious's plans, and he might be something monstrous. He simply wants to kill him before that transformation, but both Kenobi and Skywalker are called away to rescue Palpatine as Ahsoka Tano replaces them. It's an interesting twist, where Ahsoka defeats Maul and captures him, but just as he's being transported for trial, Order 66 is invoked and the clone troopers turn on Ahsoka. She's forced to release Maul to use him as a distraction, and this helps Maul escape out into the galaxy, where he's never recaptured again. Following this, he uses his Force knowledge to find out all about the fall of the Jedi, the death of the Republic, and the birth of the Empire as he goes into hiding. Solo, a Star Wars story, and Crimson Dawn comics. The Crime Lord era, 13 BBY to 3 ABY. This is the part where we bridge the gap between the Clone Wars finale and Star Wars Rebels. This is the time that Maul used to rebuild his criminal empire, brick by brick, and he did it all in the shadows of the new galactic empire. The 2018 film Solo, a Star Wars story by Ron Howard, brought in a surprise cameo from Maul where fans least expected him. The film is about the origin story of Han Solo and Chewbacca, but there is a twist towards the end where it's revealed that Han Solo's childhood love and an operative for Crimson Dawn, Kira, reports directly to the leader of the Crimson Dawn. And no points for guessing that the leader is none other than Maul himself. He summons her to Dathomir, and it's a shocking moment for the fans as they see him in his element, twirling his lightsaber and summoning her. Maul was played by Roy Park and voiced by Sam Witwer, and it was all the confirmation fans needed to understand that Maul has been busy following the events of the Clone Wars. He's been working in the shadows after learning from the trouble caused by making too much noise earlier. Before this, he operated as the Shadow, a largely anonymous crime lord on Dathomir who directed the Crimson Dawn through proxies even as the Empire hunted former Sith and powerful Force users. This once again shows his organizational skills and his ability to learn from mistakes as he pushes his agenda without repeating what he did during the Clone Wars era. In this story arc, another narrative that holds a lot of significance is Star Wars: War of the Bounty Hunters, which is a canon comic book crossover event and miniseries from Marvel Comics. It dives deep into the workings of the Crimson Dawn criminal faction and the role of Kira. Together with the comics series Crimson Reign, it peeks into the rise of Kira, following Maul leaving the organization as she uses Crimson Dawn to execute one of his original schemes, undermining both Palpatine and Darth Vader simultaneously. Let us know if you guys want us to dive into the details of these old comic book stories in another video, because honestly, we'd love to oblige. Star Wars Rebels, Malachor Ezra and the Final Duel, 3 BBY to 2 BBY. We would say Star Wars Rebels is where the story of Maul comes to an end, and it's a closure that we're very satisfied with. The 3 seasons show his transformation from a sinister, manipulative schemer to someone who has a rather tragic outcome. His first appearance comes in the 2nd season of Rebels in the final episode titled Twilight of the Apprentice. It starts off with Ahsoka Tano, Kanan, and Ezra, a young Jedi Padawan journeying to the planet Malachor, which was considered off-limits to the Jedi in the olden days. But it's Master Yoda who's sending them there, and when they reach it, the mysteries of Malachor start to be revealed. During an attack from an Inquisitor known as the Eighth Brother, Ezra is separated, and Kanan and Ahsoka pursue the attacker. It's then that Ezra comes face to face with the Old Master, who turns out to be Maul. He leads Ezra to the Sith Temple on Malachor and convinces him that they can work together against a common enemy, the Inquisitors and their Sith Masters. He guides Ezra to use his anger to find strength in opening the stone door of the temple. Basically, he had crash-landed on the ancient Sith world of Malachor, and he was stranded there alone and destitute with a damaged Inquisitor's lightsaber. Across the show, his goal is primarily to find Obi-Wan Kenobi and a new apprentice for himself. He actually targets Ezra as a potential apprentice because he was impressionable and angry at the Empire. Season 3 gives us a more dramatic turn of events as Maul kills Kanan after blinding him with a lightsaber and then blasting his ship, which seemingly kills him. He finds out Obi-Wan's location, and even though the latter doesn't want to fight him, even Obi-Wan knows that a final showdown is inevitable. Maul travels to Tatooine and challenges Obi-Wan to a duel, and this Season 3 episode, titled Twin Sons, is a must-watch for the anticlimactic end to Maul. He strikes first, using his standard opening from the Phantom Menace, but he's quickly countered as Kenobi wins the duel. In his dying moments, Kenobi is by his side and tells him that he's watching over someone whom he believes to be the Chosen One. Maul dies, and his last words are, "He will avenge us." Even in his end, he still believes that Anakin Skywalker's son Luke will bring down Sidious one day, and we can't help but admire his instincts and his eventful life.
Can be shattered.
Star Wars Maul Shadow Lord, upcoming Disney Plus series. Now it's time for us to focus on the big game coming up shortly, as Darth Maul is set to emerge in a series that focuses primarily on his narrative. This animated series, created by Dave Filoni, is part of the Star Wars franchise, and it takes place after the events of Clone Wars as it follows the former Sith Lord Maul during the reign of the Galactic Empire. Sam Witwer is the voice of Maul as he reprises his role from the Clone Wars and other Star Wars media, which is comforting for us because we think his voice really suits the character. This 10-episode series is premised a year after Clone Wars, and the focus will be on Maul rebuilding his criminal syndicate while he seeks out a new apprentice on the planet Janix. He'll cross paths with Devon Izara, a young Jedi Padawan, and many are suggesting that she might just become his new apprentice. Filoni has described the animation style as the Clone Wars, but more extreme, more edgy, more painterly, and more aggressive, and we can't wait to find out more about the darker psychological state of Maul in these circumstances. For those who are too curious and want to remain up-to-date with the series, you can check out the 5-issue prequel comic series titled Star Wars Shadow of Maul, which is written by Benjamin Percy and establishes the world of Janix and the characters Maul will encounter in the show. So now you know what to expect from the new series, and the full story of Darth Maul should hold you good to consume all that's about to come next. Honestly, we love these kinds of characters, the ones who have nothing left but the drive to rebuild, and you simply can't put them down. The former Sith, abandoned by his master and hunted by his master's empire, is still trying to become someone in the galaxy that apparently has no place for him. This is all set to be an absolutely cinematic experience for the fans, because it's going to be the part that tells us who Maul is when everything he trained to be is taken away. Are you as excited as we are to find out what happens next? Well, make sure you stay tuned to our channel because the show is coming out on April 6th on Disney+, and we're going to be making a lot of videos about it because, well, we're really excited. Let us know in the comments down below what you think of this iconic character and his various story arcs, and let us know which are your personal favorites. Also, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit those like and subscribe buttons if you want to see more content like it. It really helps us out a lot when we're trying to decide which videos we're going to try to make next. Either way, we really appreciate you watching, so thanks for being here, stay safe out there, and we'll see ya in the next one. Bye-bye for now.